watch Sweet Smell of Success with Tony Curtis and Burt Lancaster. Here's the plot from Wikipedia. Up-and-coming press agent Sidney Falco scans the New York Globe for the column of J.J. Hunsaker, a media kingpin whose journalism and radio show dominate the entertainment world. For the fifth day, J.J. has not published any of Sidney's clients, as he is protective of his 19-year-old sister, Susan, and has asked Sidney to end her affair with jazz guitarist Steve Dallas. Sidney has been unsuccessful. Steve is performing at the Elysian Room with his group as Sidney argues with Uncle Frank D'Angelo, who is Steve's manager, who has promised Steve and Susan they will part. Learning from cigarette girl Rita that Susan is waiting Steve behind the club, he interrupts them. Steve accuses him of scratching for information like a dog. Rita asks Sidney to help her keep her job at risk because she refused to sleep with JJ's competitor, Leo Bartha. Sidney secures a date with Rita. Questioned by Susan, he reassures her that JJ is a close friend. JJ greets his informer, Harry Kello, a corrupt NYPD lieutenant, indebted to JJ for saving his job after Kello beat up a suspect. JJ gives Sidney an ultimatum to destroy Steve and Susan's relationship. Sidney attempts to blackmail Leo, threatening to expose his affair with Rita unless Leo prints a gossip item that Steve is a communist who smokes marijuana. Leo chooses his journalistic integrity, with which his wife Loretta praises for the first decent act in years. Sidney bribes the columnist, Otis Elwell, with a promise of a favor for available women. Rita initially objects, but ultimately assents to Sidney's plan in order to stay employed. The smear appears in Otis's column and the quintet is fired. As planned, JJ gets Steve rehired with a phone call in front of Susan. Steve rebukes him for his malignant influence on society. Susan breaks up with Steve to save him from JJ's vengeance. JJ orders Sidney to plant marijuana on Steve. Sidney balks, saying that he can accept a dog collar but not a noose. He acquiesces when JJ offers to let Sidney write his column for 3 months while he vacations with Susan. Sidney slips marijuana into Steve's coat. Kello assaults Steve, who is hospitalized. Sidney celebrates, but is summoned to JJ's penthouse where Susan is about to commit suicide by jumping from the balcony. He takes her to the bedroom to rest. Arriving to find the two holding each other, JJ scolds him. Realizing that Susan set him up, Sidney reveals that JJ conspired to frame Steve. He leaves, vowing to reveal the truth and telling JJ that Susan is lost to him. JJ calls to tell Kello that Steve is innocent, ordering Sidney to be arrested for planting evidence. Kello ambushes Sidney and beats him up. JJ begs Susan to stay as she packs. She says death is preferable to living with him. JJ watches from the balcony as she strides into the coming dawn. It was a good movie. I say check it out.